Hello everybody and welcome to another expanded guide. Today we're going to be talking about Preston FAIRMONT, who actually, like, no joke, is becoming one of my favorite investigators to play. I just really like Preston, and I'm excited to talk about him for the next 30 to, knowing Bryn and I, maybe 90 minutes. Hopefully not. I can't see how we can get this video that long. But, Bryn, I'm going to pass Preston to you because you are the rogue and the rogue expert. So why don't you talk a bit about Preston?
All right. So we get to play with green cards 0 to 5. No illicit ones, though, because we're an upstanding member of society. We don't commit crimes. We can employ criminals to commit crimes on our behalf, but it's not our business what Mr. Joseph Virgil does in his own time. That's not our business. We also get to play survivor cards 0 to 2, which is great because with our ones, we're going to be failing stuff all the time. It's pretty much going to be what you do when you initiate a skill test. You're likely not going to pass it. Although your star is effect +0, you can spend 2 resources to automatically succeed instead, which is not garbage.
No, it actually can be really good.
Yes. Sometimes it is really good. Anyway, the real thing about this guy is that anytime you gain 1 or more resources from a card effect, you have to place them on the family inheritance instead of your resource pool. And you begin the game with the family inheritance in play, which is an asset that's it's permanent. As an action, you can move all of the resources from the family inheritance to your resource pool. And forced when your turn begins, place 4 resources from the token pool, family inheritance. You can spend them as though they were in your pool. You discard all of the resources on it at the end of your turn. So you do want to be using them every turn or using the extra action to shunt them into your resource pool to use later. Because otherwise you're an investigator with wands, and then you suck. Our weakness here is the Lodge Debts. It is a 10-costed event. Its effect is remove it from the game. Forced when the game ends, if it is in your hand, then you take a mental trauma, which is not really that bad.
Yeah.
It's entirely workable. If you're playing standalone, this card doesn't even do anything.
Yeah.
It's just a dead draw.
Yeah, because you have 7 brain. Like, you could probably tank this twice, no problem.
And you got access to red cards. You can employ, like, a college kid to take all of your horror for you.
Yeah.
It's cool. He probably owes, like, crippling student loans, so...
Yeah, he'll do anything. Peter Sylvester will do anything for money.
Which is great, because that's the thing you got. This guy, he has kind of a neat gameplay loop where you're looking to... you're trying to approach the game very differently than you would with a traditional investigator. You are trying to avoid as many skill tests as you possibly can and use your money to, bypass them.
Yeah. If you're wondering, for his text on his card, what a card effect is, that's pretty much anything except gaining a resource as an action or gaining a resource during the upkeep phase. Like... I can't think of anything else that's not a card effect. Because everything in this game is a card except for actions and upkeep. So, pretty much everything. Yeah.
But it does mean that you get 5 to play with every turn if you don't do anything else.
Yeah, so this is actually something that you're going to hear us talk about a lot in this video. There's really, like, 2 styles of Preston. There's the money. There's 3 styles. There's big money, there's spend money, and then there is poor Preston. I do think that the poor Preston is the weakest of the 3, but it can still do... They're all 3, I think, viable builds that you can take with Preston. So poor Preston, it's kind of like the spend money Preston, except like you're like probably playing a dark horse, and you want to be at 0 and be taking advantage of it, and then using the money on your inheritance to do things. The spend money Preston, you're not going for like the dark horse style. You're spending your money, but you also are probably still transferring your money over. Occasionally, when you want to save it, you have a free action. And then that's where you're going to commonly see things like Streetwise, or like it's still not like not great, but Preston can still make it use, or things like Intel Report and Small Favor and the like. And then there's Big Money Preston, which is just exactly what it says on the tin. If you're looking at Travis's strengths and weaknesses, absurd economy and strong card pool, weaknesses all ones, and slightly limited deck building. While he does have a strong card pool, Preston has a very distinct style, so you're not going to be building him like you will other investigators. And also the no illicit actually does pop up. Like, I really want to play Underworld support Preston Fairmont, but I can't. I'm not allowed because he's too much of a goody two-shoes. Yeah. All right. Let's start talking about some notable cards. I'll start here with these ones of the core set. We have Leo DeLuca. This is an example of one of the criminals that Bryn was saying Preston Fairmont associates himself with. You may take an additional action during your turn. This is actually really good for big money, Preston, at least as like a starting point, because that additional action basically says transfer your money over. And if you don't need that money, you can use that action for something else. So that's like a nice little thing that Leo DeLuca does, but he also can give you additional actions for not that as well. Elusive allows you to disengage from enemies, engage with you, and move to a reveal location with no enemies. This is good because when you're Preston, you are kind of have the potential to be absolutely hopeless. And this is a good panic button that you can press to get out of it. Sneak attack, deal 2 damage to an exhausted enemy at your location. You probably are using tricks to exhaust enemies, or you are just kind of like the cleanup guy for someone else at the table, depending on your player count. But sneak attack can help you do that. Rabbit's Foot's a staple. If you see the Elder sign on the card, that means you can go down in the description to see a video of us talking about the staples of the cards. Preston's going to fail tests. As Brenda said, you don't really want to be like looking to make tests with Preston. Like the tests that you're making are the ones you're forced to make. So that's where Rabbit's Foot is good because it basically can draw you an extra card in the Mythos phase 90 to, if not, 99% of the time. Stray Cat, you can automatically evade a non-elite enemy at your location. That's good for sneak attack and also because Preston cannot fight things. Dig Deep, spend a resource. You get either +1 brain or +1 foot. This is a good thing if you're doing spending, Preston. However, one thing to be aware of is that the money on your family inheritance, it goes away at the end of your turn, which means you cannot use the brain you cannot use the money to boost your brain from family inheritance during the Mythos phase. So that money needs to be transferred into your personal account, not just on Daddy's inheritance. Then we got Cunning Distraction, which is probably a GOAT card in Preston. Because
it's a turkey, Justin.
It's a turkey? I thought it was a goat the whole time.
It's not a goat.
Oh, frick. Cunning Distraction, it's cost 5 and it automatically evades all enemies your location. In like every other investigator in the game, this card is like very good, but very expensive, right? Like they're like, oh, I can evade every enemy, but it costs 5. But with Preston, you get 5 resources a turn. And this has saved our butts so many times. It's kind of crazy. Last one here is Emergency Cash. This is a staple, and it also gives you 3 resources. Of note, it is a card effect, so it does go on your family inheritance instead. All right, Bryn, why don't you finish off core set with these guys over here?
All right. We got Hard Knocks. You remember Dig Deep? Yeah, this is the green one. It's Punch and Fist. Not Punch and Fist. That's the same thing twice. It's Punch and Foot instead of Brain and Foot. So pretty much just depends what you're trying to do. If you're playing like a Fire Axe or some other sort of fighty Preston, this is probably pretty all right. Just a way to make your ones not ones anymore. We got upgraded Leo. He costs 5 now, which is 1 less than 6, and also coincidentally the amount of resources that we get to play with in a turn, just from framework effects of the game. We got the Cat Burglar. This is another, what Cat Burglar gets up to in their own time is their business, not Preston's. He doesn't care.
He has been nothing but good since I've started working with him. He is a very upstanding employee.
Yeah. Sometimes he tries to sell me things that I have no idea where he gets them, and I don't want to know. I do want them. He gives you +1 foot, which puts you up to a resounding 2.
That's
Literally
a 100%
increase.
Yeah.
Yeah. As an action, though, you can exhaust him to disengage from each enemy engaged with you and move to a connecting location. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity. So, sometimes you just don't want to fight a ghoul because your numbers are 1. So, you don't. Somebody else will take care of that. We got the hot streak. This is like emergency cash, but on like pretty serious steroids.
Yeah.
3 for 10, which is a +7 instead of a +3. And also, coincidentally, 10 is the number we have to pay the lodge because, who knows what Daddy was up to.
One thing that I hope we shouldn't have to say, but if you're going to play a card like Hot Streak in Preston, make sure you don't do it as your last action.
Yes. Yeah.
That would be bad. So if you're going to play Hot Streak, it's probably realistically more often than not a double action, with your second action being transferring your money over.
Yeah. Yeah, or you're planning to spend 14-ish money this turn, in which case, that's a lot of money.
Or alternatively, even doing keeping Hot Streak in hand until you draw your that could be an upgrade for poor Preston, right? Getting Hot Streak and then waiting till you draw your lodge debts and just clearing it out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right, on to the Dunwich Legacy. We have Think on Your Feet. You're going to see a reoccurring trend here where there are cards that let Preston run away from his problems. When an enemy would spawn at your location, move to a connecting location and that enemy still spawns there. We have Fire Axe, which this is the big part of one of the things for poor Preston. It allows him to attack. You don't really it goes against kind of what we've been talking about Preston, where you don't want to be taking actions. Poor Preston does take actions during his turn, and Fire Axe is a part of that. So if you have no resources, it deals +1 damage. And then during your attack, you can spend 1 resource. You get +2 fist for this test, limit 3 times. You get money on your inheritance, so you always have something to spend Fire Axe on. And then if you have a Dark Horse in play and you spend 2 money, for example, on the Fire Axe, and you have no money in your pool, you have 6 attack, which is a good number, right? It's just, it requires a lot of work to get going. It can do things, but it's not an efficient way of going about it, but you can do that with Fire Axe. It's probably more, poor Preston kind of exists in that 3 or 4 player play group, because he's kind of fragile and he can do things. He just has to work a lot harder for it, but Fire Axe is one of the key tools for that. Lone Wolf, when you begin your turn and there's no other investigators in your location, you gain 1 resource. This is a card effect, so it does go on your family inheritance, but making 6 money a turn does still sound pretty sweet. Rise to the occasion. This one's kind of juicy in Preston, so commit only to a skill test you're performing and only if the difficulty of that test is at least 2 higher than your base skill value. That's pretty much the majority of the Mythos tests in the game. Some of them are going to be 2 tests, but you could probably maybe just not worry about those. But there's a lot of things like Rotting Remains that Preston would like to minimize the damage he takes on, the horror rather he takes on that, and Rise to the Occasion can help with that. It also can be good in poor Preston because your base skill value is always 1, because that is how the rules work. Dark Horse here is another one of those cards that is key to poor Preston. During the upkeep phase, you may choose not to gain resources. And while you have no resources, get +1 in your stats. Double all your stats. It's the best value that any investigator can get from Dark Horse. A 100% increase across the board. And it's a key part of poor Preston. We have Relic Hunter and Charisma. These both fall really they're in the stable videos, and they're just good cards depending on the build that you're going. And then we have Streetwise over here. This is the card that I was talking earlier about Spend Preston. 2 resources for +3 is noticeable. That puts you up to 4. If you have other things in play, that can just be really possible for Preston to do things. And 2 resources, he does not feel it as much as other people does because he makes 4 money a turn. All right, Brent, why don't you take on these 2 cards and then I'll have you continue on through Carcosa.
We got the Gold Pocket Watch. This is a 2-costed exceptional level 4 asset, which means that it costs you 8 XP to put in your deck, and you can only have 1 of them. It takes up your accessory slot and has a lightning bolt When a phase begins, you can remove the gold pocket watch from the game to skip that phase. Or after a phase ends, you can remove the gold pocket watch from the game to repeat that phase. Now, I know you're all probably thinking, like, the Mythos phase, let's repeat that. But you could skip it too. It's pretty solid. Yeah, most of the downside to this one is having to spend 8 XP on it. But depending on what sort of a Preston build you're running, you might not need that XP for other things. So you might just be able to buy your teammates another turn.
Yeah.
We got the Red Gloved Man. So if Dark Horse was a 100% increase across the board, the Red Gloved Man is a 600% increase.
That's so high. That's so much value.
Yeah, he's a 2-costed fast ally. After he enters play, you choose. Well, it's not across the board, but you choose 2 of your skills. So, like, it's going to be the ones you're going to use. They become 6. Notably, it does set the base value.
Yeah.
So if you're playing any of those other, tricksy cards that care about your base value versus the test difficulty, this will alter that. And then at the end of the turn, you got to discard him, but it doesn't matter because you probably got whatever you needed to do done.
Yeah, and because he also lasts through the Mythos phase, so he can actually defend you as well.
Yeah, you can eat a Rotting Remains or a Crypt Chill or whatever.
Yeah. All right, Brent, why don't you keep this going into Carcosa?
All right, we got Resourceful. This one is on the Red Staple video. Just gets one of your things back. Probably in Preston, it gets the turkey back. You throw the turkey again, the ghouls are stupid.
One thing as well with Resourceful, you're probably not committing it to your own test.
Yeah. I suppose that is a thing to bring up here. Like, you are probably failing all of your own tests.
Yeah.
So you probably want to throw this at somebody else's test.
Yeah. It's a special, like we said, Preston is a little bit weird.
He is a little strange. We got Dario El Amin, otherwise known as Preston's bridge partner. He's a 4-costed ally. Well, you have 10 or more resources, you get +1 brain and +1 book. As an action, if there are no enemies at your location, you can exhaust him to gain 2 resources. That is also a card effect, so it will put it on the family inheritance, which is kind of weird. I don't know how Dario managed to wangle that. Like, he's got access to Preston's family bank accounts. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But if you are playing you're playing the deck where you want to just hoard a giant pile of money, Dario is one of the payoff cards for that. And he will also kind of help you get there. But like in a weird roundabout way.
Yeah.
Polar opposite here, we've got Madame Labranche. She is a 2-costed 2/2 ally with, as a lightning bolt, if you have no cards in your hand, exhaust her to draw a card. Or if you have no resources, exhaust her to gain a resource. So if you're playing Poor Man Preston, you never have resources. She's just an extra charge on your Fire Axe or money to play whatever event or asset or thing you want to do. Sometimes she might even be extra cards.
So Brent, sorry, I got a weird thought during that for this one. For this, because family inheritance, all right, I'm just, my brain's going. So, if Preston Fairmont, this is awful, and I hear Travis groaning from here, but if Preston Fairmont took a versatile to get a Ward of Protection and was playing Dark Horse Preston, you could use Madame Labranche's ability to put a thing on family inheritance and then use Ward of Protection in the Mythos phase. It's awful, but I was just like, because I was like, it's a lightning bolt. It's a card effect. So I don't know why I'm saying this. It just hit me and I needed to get it out there. That you could technically get money on your family inheritance outside of the investigator phase. And I was just like, is there anything you can do with that? And the answer is probably no. But still, I have to say it.
The realistic one is use Dig Deep. or a similar effect
Yes,
during the
yes,
Mythos
yeah.
phase.
That's the one that
like,
actually doesn't require putting a versatile in your deck.
yeah, you don't have to put the versatile in your deck to get there, but
Yeah.
yeah, she is kind of neat for that deck. Not so good for the other two though. We got Moxie. Moxie is just so it's the green composure. It can soak one horror. You must put damage on it before you put damage on your investigator card. And you can spend money to get better at brain or foot. It's also fast to play and only costs one resource. It's pretty much just a different flavor of Dig Deep or Hard Knocks, as is Plucky. The next card here, it's the red composure. It's kind of the same deal. It just boosts your brain or your book instead. If you're playing that kind of deck, you probably want to be playing ones that will allow you to buff any skill. So, it's just the way it is. Like maybe you're playing Pluckies and Hard Knocks or something like that, so that you can pay money to buff any number, whichever number you need to.
Yeah.
We got upgraded sneak attack. Difference here is that the enemy only needs to be not engaged with you. That's a lot easier than exhausted. Like a lot easier. Got the newspaper. Notably the upgraded one. The level 0 one is kind of not great for Preston because you just get to investigate at 3 while you don't have any clues. But the upgraded one gives you +2 book while you do not have any clues. And as a reaction effect, when you discover a clue, you get to discover another one. Notably, you don't have to be investigating when you discover that clue. You can be discovering that clue anyway, as long as you don't already have any. 2 clues is a 100% increase. And we got the Key of Ys. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this one. This card's just good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's 3 costed. It takes up your accessory slot. It soaks 4 horror, and you have to place horror on it before you place horror on your investigator card. However, like any card that has that text, you can choose to put it on any other asset you control first, because that's not your investigator card. Yeah.
Yeah.
Card's just, like, it's kind of nuts.
Card's just kind of nuts.
Yeah.
All right, we are on to the Forgotten Age here. We have you handle this one. This is a staple, but it's also really nice because, as we've been talking about it, Preston hates the Mythos phase. And this is a way for him to get out of the Mythos phase while also putting 1 resource on family inheritance, the value. Next up here is we got Perseverance. This is fast and play when you assign damage and or horror that would defeat you. Cancel up to 4 of that damage and or horror. That's a way to just like not die. It's a good thing that you can kind of just like keep back. It's also especially good like if you are planning at the start of the game to, you know what I'm going to do? I'm never going to pay my family inheritance. I'm never going to pay those MFers. It also commits for Guts, which is also very notable. It's just a nice thing that you can have in the back of your pocket to just not die by damage and or horror when that would happen. Take Heart, another staple, gives you cards and resources when you fail a test, which you are probably going to with Preston. It's like also fall in the same line of the Lucky Rabbit or just Rabbit's Foot, where you're probably going to be able to just turn this into 2 cards and 2 resources very easily. Coup de Grace, it's testless damage to an enemy at your location if you defeat a draw card, and if it's your turn, end the turn, so don't do this as your first action. You want to save this like for the end. But this is a good way that you could like move into a location with an acolyte and kill it. And this is the example that we've been talking about. We're going to start seeing this now, especially once we get into the Circle Undone and all that, where this is the example of Preston who you do not want to be making tests. You want to be buying cards that are going to be changing, that are going to be dealing testless damage to things or discovering clues without tests. And this is like where we're going to start to see that side of Preston start coming up here. Lola Santiago, she's a rogue staple, but she's also really nice in Preston because you can just exhaust her and spend X resources to discover 1 clue your location. X is the shroud value of your location. This also works, as Bryn was saying, with newspaper because this is you discovering clues. Lola Santiago is really strong, and even if she didn't give the +1 book and +1 foot, she'd still be great in Preston. And honestly, in Preston, she kind of really doesn't give the +1 book and +1 foot most of the time. Against all odds...
She does bring the noise all the time, though.
Yes, yeah. Against the odds over here, against all odds, sorry, not against the odds. So this one I think is really spicy in Preston. So when you perform a skill test with a difficulty higher than your base skill test, who would have thought? Reveal X additional chaos tokens for this skill test. Choose one to resolve and ignore the rest. X is the difference between the test difficulty and your base skill value. So this works really well with things like Streetwise or other like Plucky or Moxie, Hard Knocks, all the things that you have that boost your things. You're able to do that and then basically just pass the test because your base skill value, unless you've played the Red Glove Man or another effect that increases your base skill value, is going to be 1, which means you're probably going to be able to draw 2 to maybe even 3 or 4 additional tokens. Then we got the Skeleton Key. It costs 2 experience, but it's exceptional, so it really costs 4 experience. Attach the Skeleton Key to your location. If it is already attached to the location, detach it and return it to your play area instead. Set the attached location shroud value to 0. This obviously is really nice with Lola Santiago, but it allows Preston to also get clues pretty reliably while taking tests, while also letting other investigators take advantage of it as well. I think it's just a nice card that if you are looking for it, it can work well with Preston, especially if you also have extra actions from Leo DeLuca or another effect, because it's a little bit action intensive, but it does make up for it by the value of the lower shroud.
Yeah. It is fast, so it's like the action you're spending is the one to attach it or pick it up again.
It's true.
That's all.
And realistically, you probably only need to do that 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. It is also worth noting that set means that you cannot further modify the number. Once it has been set to this, it cannot be changed to a different one. So you can't use this in like flashlights or lanterns to just grab clues for free because that would be too fun. Or strong.
And how dare we have fun? How dare we? All right, Bryn, we are into the Circle Undone. This is Preston's cycles. So are there good cards for Preston? Well, I'll pass these to you and you can let us know.
Depends which Preston you're playing.
It's true.
If you're playing 4-man Preston, then no. No,
you
not
already
really.
got all the things you need.
Yeah, they're from earlier cycles. But if you're playing something like Dragon Preston, then yeah, there are. Because we got Well Connected. It is a 2-costed asset that does not take up any slots. It's a condition, limit 1 per investigator. You can, as a lightning bolt, exhaust it to get +1 skill value for this skill test for every 5 resources you have, which might seem like a lot, and that's because it is. It is a lot. It needs you to have a lot of resources. It wants you to have a lot of resources.
A lot.
Yeah. We got Money Talks. This one's 0 fast. When you initiate a skill test, this skill test is a money test now, where your skill value is equal to half the money you've got. So again, like big pile of cash. Easy tests. Or singular test, I suppose, in this case. We got Cunning. This one is skill commits for a book and a foot. While you have 5 or more money, it gets an extra book and a foot. And while you have 10 or more money, it gains 2 extra book and 2 extra foot instead. So it just commits for a lot of pips, as long as you got cash. We got the Intel Report. Now, this one is one of the clue staples. It's better in Preston than it is in other investigators because 2, 4, or 6 money is a lot less of the total money he will expect to make over the course of the game. We got Decoy. I literally would never play this card in a deck that wasn't a Preston deck.
Yeah.
This one is 2-costed, evade. You automatically evade a non-elite enemy at your location. You can increase its cost by 2 to make it 2 non-elite enemies, or you can increase its cost by 2 to make it, up to 2 locations away from you. It's like a variant on the turkey, really. I think this one gets a little better with higher player counts because you are more likely to be not at the location that the enemies are at. But, again, 6 money is less of the total money that he expects to have. And we've got Small Favor, which is the same design, but deal 1 damage to a non-elite enemy at your location. Reaction, increase cost by 2 to make it 2 damage instead. Or reaction, possibly and or make it 2 locations away, up to 2 locations away from you. It's just a very versatile way to do damage to things without actually having to pass a test. Costs a lot of money, but you'll have a lot.
Yeah.
So no problems there. And we got Drawing Thin. This is a 0-costed talent asset. As a reaction effect, after you initiate a skill test, you can exhaust it to increase the difficulty of the test by 2. Gain 2 resources or draw 1 card. This card is just plain good. Doesn't really matter what investigator you're playing, but playing Preston, you are just going to fail the test anyway, so why not make it too harder and get something for it?
Yeah, even though Rita came out in the same expansion, they must have designed this and playtested this like exclusively in Preston.
Yeah. No, agree. They never thought about what might happen if you passed the test too.
Yeah.
Yeah. This card is just good. But like, especially so in Preston where the downside literally doesn't exist instead of figuratively not existing. We got Swift Reflexes for 2 money and act fast. During any investigator's turn, you can just take an action as though it were your turn. Like, no worries. You can't play it in the middle of resolving an action because that would break the game. But yeah, you can just... There's a lot of neat things you can do with this, such as having someone move into your location and do something, and then you'd be like, all right, cool, I'm going to do something now. Whatever that might be, whether it's throw a turkey on the ground or, who knows what. And do it to play all sorts of things out of sequence. But even if you're not doing that, 2 money for an extra action is the going rate if Skids is anyone to judge by.
Yeah. Yeah. And this also can be really good, like if you're playing a Red Glove Man deck, right? Like 2 extra actions, 2 resources for an extra action is pretty good when one of your stats is 6.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. A few more here. For Circle Undone, we have investments. Limit. It's a 1-cost asset. Comes with 0 supplies. Limit 1 supply on it. As a lightning bolt, you can exhaust it and place a supply on it. Exhaust and discard investments. Move all supplies from it to your resource pool as resources. This is a good way, like it's an insurance. You can play it on turn 1, and then this will help to pay off your lodge debts. It's also just money. It's just money over time. It's an investment. Like, we're not a financial advice channel, but I know what investments are, and maybe you do too. Trial by Fire, fast, play only during your turn. Choose one of your skills until the end of your turn. Set the base value of that skill to 5. This is as reasons why the Red Glove Man was good. This is a similar kind of thing. And that 3 resources hurts Preston a lot less than it hurts other resources. Another day, another dollar. This is a permanent. You begin each game with 2 additional resources. I think YouTube might correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think this is a card effect. I mean, it is, but I think you just have 2 additional resources from your starting resource pool, so I also think this does not go on the inheritance. I could be wrong, and someone on YouTube will let us know, but because you're not gaining them, you're just having to. So there we go. We found another thing that maybe doesn't work that way. Then we got Double Double. This one's pretty fun. It's a 4 experience exceptional, so really 8 experience asset. After you play an event, exhaust Double Double. Play that event again as if it was in your hand. Of note, you do need to pay the costs on them, which can be costly, but luckily you make 5 money a turn. So this could help circumvent a lot of the issues that Double Double may have for other investigators. All right, I'll keep this going into Dream Eaters here. We have the Crystallizer of Dreams. This thing right here is, this is the cost to put this card into play. You must search your bonded cards for 1 copy of the Guardian of the Crystallizer. The Guardian of the Crystallizer is kind of a chump, but I will say Preston is still scared of him because he's an enemy, which means that Preston, fear is in his heart. And it'll slowly chase you down, only targeting you, but someone else can kill it in the meantime. But what the crystallizer does is after you play an event, you can attach it face down to the crystallizer instead of discarding it. And attached events may be committed to skill tests as if they were in your hand. They can be committed to your skill tests, or additionally, they can be committed to other player skill tests. This is really nice too because Preston FAIRMONT's the suite of cards we just showed, which was Intel Report, Decoy, and Small Favor. I'm going to just go back to make sure I'm not wrong. But look at that. They all commit for 2 of the same pip, which can be actually noticeably relevant. Same with something like Swift Reflexes. So now what it does is it lets you look at your events and be like, what can I do with these, either give it for myself or my teammate. Scrounger Supplies is a staple. We talked about it in the staple video. Just level 0 cards back into your hand are good. This is actually noticeably good in Preston and can actually live a lot longer in Preston than it does in other investigators because Intel Report and Cunning Distractions stay as good as they do because they have no other higher level version of them. Easy Mark, another staple. Just a juicy card that gives you resources and cards. There's not much more to it. It's just really good for 1 XP. You get 3 of them. That's just value. We have Miss Doyle. She comes with a bunch of cats that all work the same way that Hope has here, where if it's ready, you can exhaust or discard Hope to evade. You attempt to evade with a base value of foot of 5. This is there's 2 other ones, which I believe are Augur and Zeal, which also care about Fist and Book. They have the same kind of text where you can exhaust them to do a value of 5, but if you discarded them, you get to automatically succeed. Then you may shuffle that cat into your deck and grab another one from your discard pile. So there's a lot of kind of hoops to jump through, but basically just passing a test or being at a base skill value of 5 for a test is very relevant in Preston for the reasons we've been talking about from the start of this video. And then last one here, Delilah O'Rourke. I'm not going to talk about her too much, but she's Lola for damage, which Lola Santiago for clues was good. Delilah O'Rourke is also really good. One thing to note is that in the enemy phase, when enemies attack, they become exhausted. So you can shoot them in the head there and deal 2 damage instead. Basically copy-paste Lola to Delilah with clues changed to damage. All right, Bryn, why don't you take Innsmouth Conspiracy?
All right, I'm not going to get into the Cursed or Blessed archetype, although he does kind of play it all right. Because you have access to very strong cards on both sides. We've got the Faustian Bargain. This card is just a staple. It's just plain good. It's like emergency cash, but 5 instead of 3, and anybody instead of just you. As long as they're at your location, and all you have to do is put 2 curse tokens into the bag, whatever, you were failing your tests anyway. It doesn't matter. Got the Mariner's Compass. This card is a Fire Axe, but for clues. So if that's the side of the game that you want to be playing as Preston, this is a pretty strong option. We've got Under Surveillance. This one's a weird one. It's a 3-costed event that you attach to your location, limit 1 per location, because apparently you can't be surveilling the same location twice for reasons. Forced after a non-elite enemy enters attached location, you discard it. You automatically evade that enemy and discover a clue at that location. That enemy does not ready during the next upkeep phase. So you can really use this to throw a wrench in the plans of any sort of hunter enemy that you didn't want to have to evade again because you didn't bring a second turkey. Or something like that. And the 3 resources, the main barrier to entry here, we're Preston FAIRMONT, baby.
Yeah. I've never played this card, but I'm putting it in the event-only Preston deck we're currently doing because...
It's a way to technically deal with enemies.
And also technically get clues.
Yeah. We got the Eye of the Gene. This one is, it's exceptional, so it costs 4, not 2, to put in your deck, not to play. It does cost 2 to play. Can you imagine if exceptional affected the cost to play the card too?
Yucky.
That would be so confusing.
It doubled
but as
everything.
a reaction,
Double the
Yeah, yeah, it
symbols,
just
double the number of
everything on the
slots
card.
needed.
Yeah, yeah, it takes 2 hand slots.
But the art has it in one hand. We don't care. It's exceptional.
Doesn't matter. This card, when you initiate a skill test during your turn, you can exhaust it to set the base value of your skill to 5, which is a lot more than if a Blessed token is revealed during the skill test, you ready it. If a Curse token is revealed during the skill test, you may take an additional action this turn. Neither one of those is a bad thing. But also, I think this card might be good in Preston, even if you are not doing either of those things.
Yeah. It does make me...
Sorry, go ahead.
It does make me want to build a Burn the World Curse Preston deck.
You know?
Because he doesn't care. His stats are 1.
Man. Play all curses, play all characters who can play False Covenant, cheat the devil at every turn.
Let's go. That sounds fun.
Just like... I think you'll find that's not my handwriting. It's, I signed it with my left hand. That's,
the devil's
that's
like,
not my signature.
Dude, stop tricking me!
We got the level 4 Hard Knocks. You might have noticed that we skipped over the level 2 Hard Knocks, and that is because it is not that much better for Preston than the level 0 one. But the level 4 one, this one comes with 2 resources that are replenished every turn, and we can spend those to get plus to our numbers, as well as spending money out of our resource pool. So if this is our plan, this is quite a large boost because we just get 2 free uses every turn.
Yeah.
Pays for itself the first time you use it.
Hell yeah. All right. Edge of the Earth. Okay, what do we got? What's in this expansion?
We can't play Underworld support.
Oh, Travis. Travis doesn't know that this card's illicit. I also did not even... Here, one second. We'll just cover it. I don't have a picture I can put up. 1 second. Let's see what's under this card.
With my hand.
It's just Will Yorick. There we go. You see nothing. All right. We have Counter Espionage, which is a fantastic card in its own right, but is also especially juicy in Preston. So when a non-weakness treachery, when you draw it, you can cancel that card's revelation effect and draw the top card of the encounter deck. It costs 2, but you can spend an additional 2 to change the encounter deck to your deck, and you can pay 2 to change the U to any investigator. But who are we kidding? You're not going to do that.
Yeah.
This is just for you. You might notice that this actually fits in with Small Favor, Decoy, and Intel Report, and it does, because it also commits for 2 symbols, 2 brains. And it kind of completes the set. And Counter Espionage is a sweet card and really good in Preston, and also just other green investigators. We have Money Talks, the upgraded one. This one, now it's when any investigator initiates a skill test, but once again, you're probably more than likely saving this for yourself. And then when it's done, you also just get to draw a card as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it is always scaling off of your money.
Yes, yeah.
And the investigator doesn't have to be at your location.
It is a nice upgrade.
I think it's kind of fun.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're across Dunwich and they're like haggling with a shopkeeper and you're just like, I have money!
You also could use it to grief people as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you definitely could.
I'm poor Preston, take a 0 test, motherfucker. That's funny. We have the red clocks, the 2 and the 5. They're both exceptional. They're busted. They're really strong. The level 5 one, especially. The level 2 one's nice, but the level 5 one, basically, with 1 charge, you get +4 skill value for your next skill test, which notably is the worst in Preston, but still, like, turning a 1 into a 5 is a good rate. And then for 2 charges, you may move up to 3 times, and 3 charges, you may take 2 additional actions this turn. One thing it also does is when you may take all the charges here as resources, and then you place the charge on the level 5 version, which means that it's just more money into your account. The level 2 version kind of does the same but less, and it's a little bit slower because you don't get to take the charges and then put another charge on. You either place 1 charge or take all the charges as resources. And also the values of the things are just now +3, 2 moves, and 1 additional action. We have Black Market, which is a really fun and really strong card. Just 1 cost, 2 experience. Play at the start of the investigation phase. 1 at a time, reveal cards from the decks until you have 5. Then players may play those cards as if they were in their hand. So that means assets and events. You cannot play skills off black market. They last until the start of the next investigator phase, so you can also use it for like ward of protection or counter espionage. Just a sweet little card that's just really fun and actually much more powerful than we initially gave it credit for. We have the Black Fan. This is the anti-Dark Horse, and boy is it juicy. So it's exceptional, so it costs 6 experience. Well, you have 10 or more resources, you get +1 health, +1 sanity. 15 or more, you may take 1 additional action during your turn. That's the juicy one in Preston. Because at 20 resources, you get +1 to each of your skills, which is good in most investigators, not so much in Preston. But if you're doing it with other things, it can be good. And then we have the level 3 Moxie, which is now fast. It gives you +1 brain and +1 foot, so it effectively gives you 1 resource to spend on those things every turn, like baseline, like that's the flat value. But then otherwise, same thing, non-direct damage or horror must be assigned to Moxie before it can be assigned to your investigator card. And you can spend a resource to get brain or foot. So yeah, just kind of like a better Moxie, and it's fast, and it gives you stats, and it just soaks for more. It's just really good. Here, Bryn, why don't you take these last Edge of the Earth cards?
We got Will Yorick. We got an Unscrupulous Loan. So it costs 0. It's level 3. Limit 1 per investigator. Cannot leave play. As a reaction effect after it, you play it, you gain 10 resources to the family inheritance, but that's not, whatever. Doesn't matter. You'll be fixing that soon enough. And forced, when the game ends or you are eliminated, if you have fewer than 10 resources in your resource pool, you have to exile the Unscrupulous Loan, so you'll have to pay the 3 XP to put it back in your deck, or replace it with a level 0 card. This one is really good if you're playing like the Hoarding Preston, where you don't intend to spend the money because you're just like +10, yeah, let's go. And that kind of hits the threshold for most of the cards to start paying off. So that's fairly strong. It also does just pay for the lodge debts, if that's what you're into.
So like, if you have Unscrupulous Loan in your starting hand, you can get 20 resources on the first turn in Preston.
Oh yeah, no problem.
That's kind of nuts. Get a hot streak in there, you're now sitting at 27 resources. Wow.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. Any of the cards that care about it, you're laughing then.
Yeah.
Like, we got the Precious Mementos. They're a thing from a future life, thing from a past life. They take up your accessory slot. They soak 3 and 3. You can limit 1 Precious Memento from a future life or past life or whatever per deck. So you can't have more than, you probably won't because the collection only comes with 1 of each. As a reaction, after you fail a skill test by 2 or more, you can heal. You can exhaust Precious Memento to heal damage from it. And after you succeed by 2 or more, you can exhaust it to heal a horror from it. The other one is the same thing, but inverted. They also took the time to switch the positions of the skill icons on these cards, which is kind of neat.
You got me. That's the second time you got me with that. I was like, really? No, you got me with that twice now.
So these ones you're probably looking at the fail by 2 or more. Although if you're playing big money, Preston, there is a very real chance that you're going to be able to succeed by 2 or more.
Yeah.
Either way, they just kind of keep you alive through whatever sort of thing you really need to not be dead to. We got Crafty. This one gives you 2 resources that you can spend on insights, tools, or tricks. Most green events are tricks. And as a lightning bolt, you can spend 1 of its resources to get +1 skill value on an insight, tool, or trick. Probably not doing that so much. Probably using it to help you pay for your cards, but doesn't matter. Either way, it's kind of good if you are playing a significant number of cards with those traits in your deck. Though I don't actually think you can really play much in the way of tools. It's like red cards, because the green ones are all illicit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true. Like lockpicks, yeah.
We got Antiquary. It's pretty close to the same thing, but for a different group of traits. This one is Favor, Relic, or Ritual. Admittedly, you probably don't have access to really any sort of rituals, but you do have all kinds of relics. And the green events that are not tricks, they're probably favors.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's the same card. Yeah. Commits for different icons, but whatever. That's not particularly important. If you're including these in your deck, you probably don't want to be throwing them at skill tests.
Man, I think if someone like, unless it was like the last 3 turns of the game and they committed this, I was like, what the fuck? What's going on?
Hold on.
They must be having an awful game. All right. We are here in the return 2 boxes. Here's that Hard Knocks that Bruno was talking about earlier.
Level 2 I guess we are including that, huh?
But like you said, it's not too, like, unless it's, if you don't have the level 4 version, you probably don't even need to go to the level 2 version. However, if you do have the level 4 version, but you could be like a stopping point, it does save you 2 money, but it does the same thing as all the other ones we talked about. The level 2 Dig Deep does also save you some money. It has more symbols on it as well for committing, but it's the same kind of thing if you want this. And as Bruno's saying as well, like, if you're going to be going for the boost stat Preston, you probably want to cover all of them. So like a Dig Deep and sort of like the Plucky and the Hard Knocks, which I believe cover them all. We have the Middle Ground Hot Streak, 5 to 10. Just money. Just more money. We've been talking about money so much here that it's kind of just like all just gibberish in my brain right now. It's just money, 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 money. Level 2, think on your feet. When an enemy enters your location, instead of it when an enemy would spawn at your location, it's now, or when you draw an enemy, it's now when an enemy enters your location. Immediately move to a connecting location, the enemy still enters your previous location. This is nicer because it allows you to run away from hunter enemies. And you actually like have more control, and it's going to be much easier to trigger than the other one if you are looking for this kind of effect. Alter Fate, choose and discard from play a non-weakness treachery that is not attached to a non-elite enemy. Yeah, card's just good for dealing with pesky treacheries. It is sort of campaign reliant. However, the campaigns where it's really good, it's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, and the campaigns where it's not really good, it's just normal good.
Yeah, it's still just fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Level 3 Well Connected. I love the hell out of this card. It's like the other one where you can exhaust. You get +1 skill value for the skill test for every 4 resources you have. The last one was 5. This one is 4, which is actually noticeable because instead of the thresholds being at 5, 10, 15, 20, we have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So it's just easier to hit these things, especially in Preston. As a lightning bolt, you can also spend 2 resources to ready Well Connected once per round because they hate fun for some reason. Like, I don't get why this is once per round, because they hate fun. That's okay. But if it was a yellow card, it would pay you to ready once per round. Like it'll pay you. You can do it as much as you want. But what's really nice about Preston in this Well Connected is that 2 resources to ready it probably isn't coming from your resource pool. It's probably coming from your family inheritance, which means it's not affecting the boost that it gives you, which is particularly nice. And then we have the Fool. This is a tarot card. When you play a card, exhaust it, reduce that card's cost by 1. This doesn't seem that impactful in Preston, but it also just means that you can put your money elsewhere, which is still a reduction. And honestly, the other tarots that he can run aren't really worth it. Because they either give you +1 foot or +1 sanity, like health and sanity. Not really blowing the doors off the place.
Like the Ace of Rods is not terrible.
That's the one that gives additional action, and +2, yeah.
The rate of return, it's not amazing. The money doesn't matter so much here.
I'll be honest, I always forget that card exists.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Knight is pretty okay too, but
that's the succeed. No. That's the changes the number you succeed by.
You got to be doing something a little strange.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Brandon, why don't you close us off here with the Investigator Decks?
All right, we got the level 0 Streetwise. So this one, instead of being a permanent, it is a zero-costed talent asset. Very similar, though. You spend 2 resources, you get +2 to your chosen skill type, book or foot, for that skill test. So it's a little less efficient, but you also didn't have to pay like 5 experience or whatever to include it in your deck. We got the level 0 Scrapper. This one is literally Hard Knocks, but red. So like if for some reason you don't have Hard Knock, or you want more than 2 Hard Knocks in your deck, this is your man.
Yeah.
This guy right here.
He's like, come on,
Yeah.
pick me.
He's actually probably the same guy in Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
He even looks the same.
Yeah, just this is like the Hard Knocks is after the fight or right before the fight, depending on how drunk you want it to be.
But yeah, if that's the effect you want, you can actually play 4 copies of it. So that's kind of neat. Good? That's a different question, and I'm not going to get into that.
That's not why we're here.
That's not why I'm here. We got the Mysterious Raven. For 1 resource, it will soak either 1 horror, or you can, as a lightning bolt, discard it and take a horror to discover a clue at your location. You know, sort of bypassing those tests that Preston's not so good at. This card plays really nice with the newspaper, because you can just lightning bolt and grab the clue whenever you would be able to spend them. And then put your newspaper back online.
Yeah.
Just a good place to be. We got Will to Survive, which I don't think you will see us recommending the level 0 version of for any deck but this one. Probably. I don't know. I have the goldfish memory when it comes to this series.
Yeah, no, I know, because I just say, Bryn, hey, read these ones. You're like, what the fuck are these cards?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. This one, it's 4-costed, fast play, only during your turn. You don't reveal chaos tokens for the next skill test you perform this turn. So if you've got something important to do, you can buy your way past it by not revealing a chaos token at all. Which is kind of neat. And we got Chuck Fergus. Ostensibly, he has been employed by the FAIRMONT family as a driver.
That is it. That's
all.
That's
not his primary source of income.
Yep. He is just Preston's driver.
Yeah. He's another one of them criminals you can employ to do things, but what he gets up to when he's not working for the family, it's not. He's working for a different family. It's the O'Banion gang. He's a 3-costed 2/2 ally that commits for some pretty sweet symbols, but really don't if you've paid to include him in your deck. As a reaction effect, when you play a tactic or a trick event, it can exhaust him and choose 2. Either that event is fast, that event costs 2 less to play, or you get +2 skill value while resolving a skill test on as part of the resolution of that event. All of these things are good. The +2 skill value, depending on what your deck looks like, might be strong. Getting to play your tricks as though they cost 2 less and were fast, saves you actions that you can use to move money from the family inheritance if you've got it still.
Yeah.
He's just kind of good. He's good at what he does. Which
is just drive.
Which is only drive, and definitely not hit people with that shillelagh or whatever he's got in his hand. Cudgel.
I hope we get it. I want a cudgel weapon. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it could just be a zoom in on the card for the art. Yeah.
Definitely never, ever broke and entered any sort of place.
No. It's just, he just drives.
Only driving.
Only driving. Here's the starting deck that Travis made up ages ago. We have 2 Rabbit's Foot to draw cards when you fail tests. The Drawing Thin is also there to help you for the tests that you are going to be taking, to turn those into even more cards or resources. Leo DeLuca is here to give you that extra action, which you can use to transfer money over. Dig Deep to boost up the stats as needed. Lone Wolf gets you more money. Well Connected, so you can actually pass tests that, you're going to be doing. So you can look at this right now. This is definitely a make money and then use that money to your advantage kind of Preston for the level 0 deck here. Investments can help you get to the lodge debts, but also just give you an explosion of money later in the game. And then we have a bunch of notable events. You'll see that there is Decoy, Intel Report, and Small Favor. The 3 pay 2, 2 again to do additional effect cards here. We have You Handle This One to get rid of a card in the Mythos phase, which is really nice because that's where Preston's weak. However, you still have the Well Connected, so like you actually can, like, I imagine in this deck, once you get set up, that You Handle This One is used to get rid of enemies a good chunk of the time. We got 2 elusives to get rid of, to move away from enemies that you may draw and not be able to get rid of with another card. And then we have Faustian Bargain to make more money. Money Talks to use your money into a test, and then Scrounge for Supplies to get all those good favors back into your hand. Pretty straightforward deck here for Preston. However, Preston is still one of the harder characters to play when you're just starting out because he plays so differently. I've grown to really love Preston, as I said at the start of this video. I just think he's really fun to play. And I always look forward for a new chance to play Preston because it really is a wild time. It's very much different than other investigators in this game. And he's a blast. So if you haven't played Preston and you've like played a bunch of other investigators and you have a good grip at the game, I highly recommend checking out Preston. I think he is an absolute blast. And I think that's it. So thank you so much for watching. We're going to be back in 2 weeks for another expanded guide where we're going to be talking about Mr. Luke Robinson himself, the Dreamer. And then after that, it's Silas, and I can't wait. I love Silas Marsh. Yay, fish people. Anyways, have a good one. Thank you for watching. And as always, GG's.